great honor to present the biodata of Professor Jiju P. Alex G., the Director of Extension, Kerala Agricultural University, and Professor with Department of Agricultural Extension, College of Horticulture, Velankara. He completed his graduation in Agricultural Sciences and post-graduation in Agricultural Extension from the Kerala Agricultural University and doctorate from IRA New Delhi on the topic participatory planning for agricultural development through local self-government institutions, the Kerala experiment. He started his career as a scientist with ICAR. He joined Central Marine Fisheries Research Institution, Kochi, 1997, worked with the Socio-Economic and Technology Transfer Division. In 1999, he joined Kerala Agricultural University as assistant professor. Later on deputation, he joined Information Kerala Mission, the flagship e-governance program of the Government of Kerala for local self-government institutions, and he headed as a head for HRD division. And he was back to Kerala Agricultural University in 2005. He has diverse experience on a wide range of issues related to agriculture and rural development, with focus on development policy, technology society interface, innovation process, entrepreneurship development, rural democratization, and e governance. He was instrumental in designing the training methodology for e governance applications in local self government institutions based on the principles of andragogy. He also conceived and developed the KVK Activity MIS Management Information System for better administration of KVKs. He teaches courses in agricultural extension and development at the graduate, postgraduate, and PhD levels and conducts research on issues related to agriculture and rural development and technology society interface in agriculture. He has also initiated the Center for Studies on Technology Society Interface and Policy in Agriculture to conduct studies in these domains. He has conceived and implemented innovative outreach activities and was instrumental in formulating the Farmer Scientist Interface Program and the Entrepreneurship Facilitation and Farm Business School programs of the university. He has also evolved models of integrating the activities of the university with different development agencies, including local self-government institutions. He has completed 13 research projects and is currently leading 2 projects. He has guided 5 PhD, 9 MSc students and served as a member of advisory committee for more than 15 MSc and 5 PhD students. He has published 25 research papers, 5 book chapters, 7 manuals, 2 books, and 10 popular articles. He is a reviewer of the Journal of Agricultural Extension and Education and the Journal of Development in Practice. He has also participated and presented papers in several national and international conferences, including the International Conference on Planet Under Pressure at Excel, London, UK, which was conducted prior to the UN Conference on Sustainable Development, Rio Plus 20, Second Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro in 2014. He was also an invited speaker in Indo-Asian Tech Summit held at Philippines in 2019. He is a member of the State School Curriculum Committee, the Technical Committee of the Department of Environment and Climate Change, Government of Kerala, and the Expert Committee for Screening Big Proposals under Sidbi Barak of the IIT Kanpur and the State Agricultural Management and Extension Training Institute, SAMETI. He is also a member of the editorial board of the Journal of Tropical Agriculture. He was a member of the Kerala Agricultural University General Council from 2011 to 2018. He was awarded the Best Information Technology Program in the country, instituted by the Computer Society of India, on account of the contributions to develop and deploy Sevana, a software application conceived by the Information Kerala Mission for improving civil registration and social welfare measures by the local self-government institutions in Kerala. He has also won the Best Paper Award in the 23rd Kerala Science Congress held by the Kerala State Council for Science, Technology and Environment during 2011. This is a brief biodata of Professor Jiju P. LXG, the Director of Extension, Kerala Agricultural University.
Thank you, Dr. Jyoti. Now I request Dr. Jiju Alex, Director of Extension, Kerala Agricultural University, to deliver the keynote address. Dr. Alex.
Most respected chairman of this session and also one of the most distinguished civil servants and the person who inaugurated this program, Dr. W.R. Reddy, the Director of Experimental Stations, then Dean, and all other dignitaries of the university, including Dr. Satyapal, who is the convener of this program. I am so happy that I have been invited to deliver this keynote address in this very important national seminar, the significance of which has been very elaborately outlined by earlier speakers, particularly most respected Dr. W.R. Reddy, who has portrayed the entire gamut of activities and challenges that the Indian agriculture is right now facing, with special focus on agriculture in your state. In fact, my speech would be corollary to what Dr. W.R. Reddy had been trying to explain as the challenges of the extension system as a whole, as a mechanism or as a tool of development, and extension as a discipline. So in fact, when you talk about extension, we have several definitions and people tend to define extension from their perspective, and it assumes several meanings in several contexts. For some, it is transfer of technology. For some, it is transformation of the individual self. For some, it is bringing development to the society. So likewise, there could be multitude of definitions given to this term extension. And this discipline is basically, I would say, a young discipline in its nascent stage of development, which is yet to grow as a discipline per se, because the process of extension has started only a few decades back, and it is a constantly evolving and growing discipline, which has to be enriched, fostered, and nurtured by extensionists as well as other social scientists. So in fact, my deliberation would be on how do you develop extension as an interdisciplinary domain which can take on the challenges which agriculture would face in years to come, as outlined by the distinguished speaker, Dr. Reddy. In fact, my effort has been made easier by Dr. W.R. Reddy because of the fact that he has set the background for my deliberation. So I think to be more structured, I would share a screen, a PowerPoint presentation, and try to rush through the slides as early as possible. I do not know the time schedule by what time I will have to finish. I am planning to finish within 1 hour. Will it be okay? Okay, sir? Would it be okay?
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Can you see the slides now?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. So as I told you, we are basically trying to look at the interdisciplinarity of extension research, particularly due to the fact that extension has to be diversified, it has to face several new challenges, and it has to grow as a discipline to meet the challenges posed by the current scenario, not only the contingencies created by COVID-19, but also the contingencies which have been created as a result of the huge changes in the socio-economic scenario in the country due to various national and international policy changes as well as changes in the ecosystems. So as Dr. Reddy rightly pointed out, extension has to be more professional, and we have to take on such challenges with more clarity, and it has to be done diligently. So this issue of passion, this issue of commitment to take up these challenges is of prime importance. And for this to happen, extension discipline has to be more and more interdisciplinary in nature. So I would try to
very sorry, the sir connection the connection has just disconnected. Sir will join within 2 to 3 minutes. Please wait for a while. All the delegates and the guest of honor. And you please wait for another 2 minutes. Sir will join for the presentation. Thank you very much.
Is it okay now? Hello? Hello? Can you
Yes, sir,
hear me?
it's okay. Yeah,
Okay.
you please continue.
Okay. So in fact, I had a connectivity problem here, which I took some time to resolve. Okay. So this, coming back, I have come across this book on post-development terminologies, and it has been aptly named as pluriverse, which signifies that this world of development is characterized by pluralism. That means there is no single solution for all the problems. We have to have multiple solutions, and the development world as a whole is complex with lot many contradictory interests playing in between. And also there is an issue of a post-development crisis. When we had been talking about the process of development and how development would bring well-being of the people, now there is an entirely different discourse on post-development crisis. How can development bring about new crises which have to be resolved? It is not only in terms of economic development, but matters related to environment and ever so many other aspects of life are facing these issues of post-development crisis, which I would deliberate afterwards. And also you can see that this crisis is manifesting in almost all spheres of development. No one single model can be of significance. You may have to have several alternatives. And new alternatives are coming up. And all these alternatives are contextual. One alternative at a given place may not be applicable to another place, which requires a differential treatment. And many of the concepts are being revisited. Whatever we have considered to be sacred earlier are now being revisited. So in fact, these issues have made the process of development really complex, and a person who will be dealing with development process will have to address these issues. And in fact, I would like to point out some of the concepts which have been described in this particular book. There are certain things which are coming up across the globe. Alter globalization movement is one example. Civilizational transitions, democratic economy, food sovereignty, energy sovereignty. We're not trying to draw your attention away from the topic. Basically, I have presented this just to tell you the dimensions. The current day situations are being looked upon by development practitioners and theoreticians from an entirely different perspective. Whatever has been found to be very effective earlier are now being considered to be not very effective. And as I told you earlier, based on differences in the context, new concepts are coming up. And I would say this particularly at this context because of the fact that extension is the only practical science which would be dealing directly with the process of development, which is not out of the development in a single discipline. Rather, extension is a confluence or a mix of various disciplines from which practical aspects have been drawn. This is a particular and very peculiar kind of a discipline which requires interplay of several disciplines. So that means the process of development now has to be viewed not only from one single perspective, they have to be viewed from different perspectives. And extension being a subject which is exclusively dealing with development will have to address an issue from different perspectives to come up with sound solutions. So in fact, that is why interdisciplinarity in extension research is very important. In fact, I would now like to quote Karl Popper. I think those people who have undergone research methodology courses might have come across this name. He was one person who had immensely contributed to the philosophy of research. And Karl Popper is known to the world for his famous theory of falsification, which said, if you really want to prove something to be a science, there should be a scope for falsification also. So he had said that we are not students of some subject matter, but we are students of problems. And any problem and problems may cut right across the borders of any subject matter or discipline. So problems do not know whether it is the problem which has to be dealt by a physicist or a problem which has to be dealt by a biologist. Problems are problems which evolve as such, which evolve out of various natural occurrences. So problems have to be approached by man or men of substance who belong to different disciplines. So basically in development, there are only problems. As our most respected Dr. Reddy has pointed out, there are only issues. You can pose any number of problems. And finding solution cannot happen from one single scientist. It has to be done by a group of people. So that means solutions of these problems will have to cut across the confinements of all disciplines. And that is why the current day issues can be addressed only by constituting interdisciplinary terms. It is not a question of constituting 2 or 3 scientists coming together. Rather, it is a question of cross-learning, which has to happen across various disciplines. So interdisciplinary research, for that matter, is one of the most productive and inspiring of human pursuits. This is because any solution which we see right now, say, for example, you take the aircraft technology. Do you know how many disciplines are involved in that process? Or take the example of agriculture per se. How many disciplines are involved in the process of agriculture production? So that means it is one of the most productive and inspiring. If it had not been interdisciplinary, many of the science and technologies would not have happened. And also, it is a mode of discovery. And education which would create new knowledge and insights. New knowledge can happen only when people belonging to different disciplines come together. And also it is an approach that would offer comprehensive explanation of a phenomenon. A phenomenon could be explained or interpreted from the perspective of a single discipline, but it is not going to be comprehensive. It would be lopsided. It will be only pointing out or highlighting the domain of one single scientist. No, it need not be like that. So for example, poverty as a phenomenon has been defined by several people. And poverty, many of the people had believed that poverty happens because of lack of food grains. But Amartya Sen came up with an entirely new interpretation of poverty and famines. He said, it is not a question of production, rather it's a question of redistribution. That was an entirely different perspective altogether. So I'm not talking about science alone, I'm talking about social issues also, which are very important when interdisciplinarity is concerned. So one single process or phenomenon in the society can be viewed from different angles, and it becomes comprehensive only when different people view things from different angles and put it together or synthesize them. So in fact, interdisciplinary research and education, as I told you, are mostly inspired by the drive to solve complex questions. And this complexity is a characteristic feature of agriculture. Agriculture from every aspect is complex. Why? Because we have seen several examples cited by Dr. Reddy. He said there is a problem of marketing, there's a problem of less production, there's a problem of value addition, there are problems of social organizations which are required. But even now, as a discipline, agriculture scientists may not be able to pose right solutions to all these problems. And in fact, he also emphasized that you have to come up with evidence-based proof so that policymakers can take decisions that are well-learned or well-articulated decisions. So that means you have to resolve problems. And unless you have this interdisciplinary research, you may not be able to resolve problems. And in fact, it is also an interface of these disciplines. What do you mean by interface and frontiers? Interfaces are those locations wherein two disciplines come together, wherein one discipline fades and the other discipline begins. That means there is a place where these two disciplines overlap each other in terms of its content, in terms of its theories, in terms of its practice. Two disciplines merge together and they come together and they learn from each other so that these disciplines would be of use to the humankind. That means there would be even crossing of frontiers to form new disciplines. Management, for that example, is a new discipline which has come out as a result of the confluence of several disciplines put together. Likewise, you can see biotechnology has been an outcome of the confluence of several technologies put together. You have so many other new frontiers emerging from different disciplines, not because of exclusive development of a particular discipline, but because of the confluence or the reunion or union of different disciplines. So this has to happen in the case of extension also. In fact, interdisciplinarity in academic research is very important in addressing many of the world's contemporary challenges. And in fact, interdisciplinarity research or interdisciplinary research has become increasingly central to both academic interest and government science policies. This is exactly what Dr. Reddy had been trying to point out. So unless you have comprehensive solutions put forth, the government would not be able to solve many of the issues. So there are several examples by which the government depends on science and technology and research for policy decisions. So one example which I can cite from the marine fisheries sector is that estimation of the fish stock in a particular sea. And that could be done by remote sensing, that could be done by analyzing the capture data, that could be done by so many other technologies. But what would be the implication of this? is based on the availability of the fish stock. The government decides how many craft and gear should be sent out to the sea for a given season. So that means it is a matter of ensuring responsible fisheries. If you really want to make fisheries a responsible one, you have to understand the number of craft and gear, the boats and the types of nets that we use. So that how can you sustain the resources? How can you prevent people from exhaustively catching these resources? That means it would be ensuring sustainability. That means sustainability has to be supported scientifically by research institutions. So that means the solutions which we propose have to get reflected in the policies of the government. And unless these solutions are comprehensive, it cannot duly get reflected in the policies of the government. So, and also another important thing as far as scientists are concerned, it is recently known that interdisciplinarity is positively associated with research impact. So there has been a study, I got this from a study done on this, what is the significance of interdisciplinarity in research. It has been proven that if your research is more interdisciplinary in nature, the citation indices, which would value the worth of a research paper, would invariably increase. If you are hailing from one single discipline, the acceptance of your research would be less. But if it is an interdisciplinary research, it is likely to have more acceptance in the scientific community. So this is also very important. So that means I would just try to give an example of how interdisciplinary research evolves. See, for example, there is one new discipline called global studies. I do not know how many of you have heard about this. For me also, it was a new one. Global studies basically is dealing with interdisciplinary study of political, economic, legal, ecological, and cultural interconnectedness. And the predominant subjects involved in this new frontier of social sciences is politics, economics, and law on an international level. So take the example of carbon dating, or take the example of the new environmental policy. So there are several disciplines involved in this. A biologist alone would not be able to reflect on that, and requires high-end legal interpretation sometimes. And also it has got several geopolitical connotations. And the economic impact of many of the environmental projects is another subject which can be dealt only by the economists. So a confluence of all these major single disciplines has led to the formation of something called a discipline called global studies. And global studies has got the mandate of mapping global change and its both micro and macro changes. So it has got several scopes. Say you used to say that you have to think globally and act locally. So how do you think globally? There is a macro perspective, and there is an action plan at the grassroots, which is a micro perspective. That means a policy decision taken at the UN level will be having implications at the grassroots level. So it is not only that you have to understand the global implication alone, you should understand the micro level implications also. And how do you approach this issue? This issue will have to develop new methodologies, new disciplines, new interpretations, new tools of data collection, etc., etc. So that means it evolves into an entirely new discipline. So in fact, this interconnectedness between the global issues and their local implications has now evolved into a new branch of science. I am telling these examples because of the fact that I have found extension to be the most appropriate discipline which can draw richly from different disciplines and which can grow in an interdisciplinary manner. And when you look at the various things that you now see here, you can see that there are different levels at which this interdisciplinarity works. So for example, there is something called a discipline or the disciplinary approach, which they are not connected to each other. They are single entities, you can see here. And there is multidisciplinarity, which happens in our agricultural colleges and all that in our universities, wherein agronomist would be having some transaction with the entomologist, and the entomologist would be having some transaction with the extension scientist, or vice versa. So they do not come together, they do not transcend each other, but they engage in some kind of transaction. Whereas in interdisciplinary approach, there can see there is overlapping frontiers. As part of entomology getting overlapped with pathology, or pathology getting overlapped with maybe some part of maybe entirely different subject, because there are certain things which can be jointly looked upon by these two disciplines. So this is interdisciplinarity. I mean, we are mostly talking about interdisciplinarity. And the highest level for that matter is transdisciplinarity, wherein there is absolutely no confinements at all, no divisions at all. This is a singular form wherein all these disciplines could work together and contribute their own thing. So that is how in American universities, all of you must be knowing, there are transdisciplinary research coming up on a huge manner, particularly in view of the fact that new global challenges are coming up. And in order to face many of them, you cannot have this disciplinary approach, rather than you have to go for transdisciplinary approach. So again, I emphasize that extension has got a greater role or greater chance of developing into a transdisciplinary discipline. So in fact, I have already told you about this. I do not want to get into the details. So interdisciplinarity in social science research is something which is of concern to us, because we are mostly dealing with extension science, and extension science has drawn richly from social sciences. So in fact, social sciences are different from biological sciences in several respects. In fact, after having completed our degree program in agricultural sciences, and many of us are not well versed with the tools and methods of social sciences. So most of the time what happens is, even economists and extension scientists tend to follow the methods and tools followed by the biological sciences. So this has been a constraint. At the same time, there are some advantages. We are more focused and we are more objective. But at the same time, there are several gaps with respect to methodology, with respect to approach, with respect to our perspectives. And this is very important. In fact, this is why I have put this particular slide over here. You have to know exactly what social sciences mean. Social sciences are basically sciences which deal with the activities of the human beings. It could be social activities as reflected in sociology also, or it can be the individual alone as reflected in psychology, and also it can be in the race as reflected in anthropology. So there are several social sciences which are unique in their domain and in their tools, and their anthropology, archaeology, this is in the alphabetic order: economic, geography, history, law, linguistics, politics, psychology, and sociology. And I am proud to say that extension science has drawn richly from almost every one of these social sciences. So in fact, extension as an academic discipline has drawn, I told you, from all these disciplines, and it is open to a wide variety of interpretations. In fact, when you go through the definitions of extension, you can see no single definition of extension is universally accepted or which is applicable to all situations. So you are talking about transfer of technology, which is a component of extension. You are talking about changes in the behavior and attitude of people. That is another component. You are talking about the social formulations. That is another component. You are talking about social organizations. That is another component. You are talking about training and human resource development. That is another component. You're talking about psychological approach, that is another component. You're talking about implications of policy, that is another component. You're talking about rural life, that is another component. You're talking about development, which is another component. All they are all connected to each other, but they are interpreted in several ways by different people. So, and that is precisely why extension is not a term which can be precisely defined. And this extension basically can be at the most defined as a process which facilitates social transformation or change. And that is why I again emphasize that extension is necessarily a multidisciplinary science. So you can see there are certain academic disciplines or the mandates of extension could be broadly classified into three. That is, it involves education, as I told you. It involves informal education, teaching and learning, advice and information to help people solve their problems. They are giving education, advisories, and so many other things related to that. You are trying to change the attitude of people, skills of people. And there is also something called development. That is development of the whole society. So development has to be very precisely defined. And you should have a vision about development. In what directions can development go? And in agriculture, necessarily development refers to increase in the efficiency of farming, increase in production, increase in the standards of living of the farm family, improvement of socio-economic status, and ever so many other things related to that. It is not a question of, say, your income alone. It is also a question of development of the society as a whole and all other issues related to that. And there is another important component which becomes a necessary and integral part of extension, which is empowerment and welfare. So empowerment and welfare basically is to signify the power of the rural people, the power relations in the society, and how do you influence people to define their future development, and what exactly are the indicators of well-being of society and how do you define them. So again, I draw your attention to the seminal works of Amartya Sen, who is basically we have to be proud of. So he is the one who has come up with the social development indices and how various social interventions can enhance the process of development, etc., etc. I think he has given so many new dimensions to the process of development by empirically defining every aspect of development in various conditions. And we have got much more insight about development. And now, thanks to many of the works done by Dr. Amartya Sen and his followers. So likewise, we have several things to be explored. As again, I recall and recollect whatever valuable words given by Dr. W.R. Reddy. He very succinctly pointed out that extension has to deal with several complex issues, and agriculture in India is diversified and is complex. So in fact, if you really want to address those issues as a discipline, we have to have new domains. And I would just have a glance of what are the new domains which extension science can now deal with. Because extension has to grow not only as a practical science, but also as a theoretical science. Unless you have the theoretical background of how you interpret things, you will not be able to come up with programs of your own. You will not be able to formulate policies. You will not be able to give inputs to the governments. So you have to be very, very liberal, I would say. And you have to be very open to the methods and domains of other disciplines. Unless you are open to them, unless you try to imbibe from these disciplines, their interpretations, we may not be able to address the challenges that we have to address. So let me go through these disciplines one by one. The first and foremost is nature and evolution of agrarian societies. So how does agrarian society, or how do agrarian societies evolve and develop? So maybe 100 years back, what had been the agrarian relation in India? Recently, I have come across a beautiful book on the agrarian relations and tax systems in the Mughal Empire, written by a famous who came into being in agriculture. How did they delineate the various land parcels and how did they manage agrarian relations? So that was a very, very good treatise of how land management or land administration has evolved in India over a period of time. What were the changes when the British came and how did it change after we got independence? So, and what were the different changes that each state government has brought with respect to that? The changes that been followed by various ideologies, various governments from time to time. So what exactly is the availability of land and what are the relationship between the landlords and other people? So all these things are very important, which would require our attention. I think lot many things could be researched about this, and we have to have very clear understanding of how the agrarian relations exist in the society. And another one is, as I told you earlier, process of development and its determinants. How do you perceive development per se? You're talking about the Millennium Development Goals. You're talking about Sustainable Development Goals. You're talking about capitalist form of development. You are talking about more equitable distribution of resources, and ever so many other things related to that. Now we are talking about eco-friendly development, sustainable development. So how do they approach, how do each of this approach basically take development into consideration? What are the different indicators and what exactly are the basic premises on these development perspectives differ from each other? All those things are very important. And another important issue which can be of our interest is impact of technology on societies, because I have initiated a research center on this technology society interface, but I could not do much about that because falling short of various tools, methodologies, etc., and also due to lack of people, due to lack of systems to associate with other institutions and all that, we could only start it minimally, but we are now trying to build upon that. So what exactly is the impact that technology is producing on societies? Say, for example, the social media has impacted the society on a large scale, and other things have also impacted the society. So a technology which may come to the society, say for example a tractor or a new technology per se, maybe artificial intelligence which is going to come, or the blockchain technology which we are talking about right now, what kind of impact could it happen? So there are certain disciplines like futuristic studies which project what would be the future scenario, and also to find out how policies could be changed in accordance with the changes that would happen in the future scenario, and trying to find out the impact of technology on societies, how it is going to impact the lives of people, etc., is another domain of extension. And invariably, behavior of people and communities is another thing which you have been traditionally doing. Communication and transfer of technology, that is another discipline which you have been traditionally doing. And organizations and their management. Dr. Reddy has he has been pointing out the evolution of new, say for example, farmer producer organization. How do we conduct farmer producer organization? What would be the evolution of farmer producer organization? So instances of this farmer producer organization developing themselves into much bigger organizations, say for example in Maharashtra and all that, they're almost like departments of the state government who can run their own extension functionaries and they can manage their own research stations, etc., in, say, in United States and other places also, we could see some organizations of farmers coming up as very big organizations who can sustain all their R&D requirements on their own without having to depend on public institutions or private institutions. They themselves would be able to develop their own mechanisms to sustain their efforts. So there are advances which are happening. So that is very important. And rights and privileges of peasants and farmers, that is another important. So India has witnessed several instances of farmer suicides. Why did it happen? Basically, should we or shouldn't we address those issues and find out solutions to that? So if you really want to find out the problems of farmers who have attempted suicide, it is not only a question of their psychological inabilities or psychological instability, it is also an issue of redistribution of resources, lack of credit, and ever so many other things and also maybe inefficacy of the government systems. So many complex factors might have contributed to farmer suicides, which have to be very closely understood. It is not just a question of asking a farmer why there is a tendency for you to commit suicide. Rather, you have to go for mega data, which you would get maybe regarding loans, prepayments, credit, etc., etc., and you would be able to come to a conclusion only when you have a comprehensive understanding of the context in which farmers have committed suicide. I'm just putting it as an example because they are all very important. The privileges of peasants and farmers. What are the new rights which have been formulated by governments? So what are the new schemes? And what are the different entitlements farmers can have or peasants can have? So this is another domain which we have to closely look into. And management of common property resources is very important discipline which is coming up. And there are several good studies about this. How do you manage your natural resources? And how do you take care of your common property resources? And what are the different dynamics involved in it? And how can people be motivated to manage their property resources in such a way that water becomes available throughout the year, or maybe you can make use of your forest or grassland, whatever it is. And how do you formulate laws and norms by which you can manage your common property resources? So that is another important administration of development process. I would say it's a very important thing. How do you basically administer your development process? Dr. Reddy has been talking about programs and schemes. So how do you administer this process, and what is the advantage, and what are the different mechanisms by which you try to find out the beneficiaries, you do favor to people, and how does this perks or the financial assistance get on to the beneficiary ultimately, and how do they use it properly, and what exactly is the use of credit and other things and issues related to that. That is another, that's a broad phase. Administration and development process is very important. And inclusiveness is another important concept which is coming up, that is regarding mainstreaming gender concerns, subaltern segments, for example, Dalits and Adivasis, those people who are relegated to the fringes of society. How do we take care of them? Basically, do they really benefit from the various schemes and other policy interventions which the government comes up with? And what are the constraints? Now, how do they manage their livelihood security? What are the coping up mechanisms? And what exactly are the very specific interventions required to address their issues? That is another important segment. And capability building and empowerment training, HRD and other things are coming up. And another important thing is regarding policies. What are the implications of policies on people? So when there is an import policy or an export policy, or there is a domestic policy, say for example, on say maybe regarding prices or regarding prices of inputs, etc., etc. So many things may come up, So what exactly are the immediate effects of these policies on the lives of people is another segment where an extension scientist can devise their research programs. And global trends and their impact, as I told you earlier, is another important thing. So basically, I think there are certain very significant scientific disciplines in the social science stream which can be integrated with the extension. Basically, in the conventional definitions on extension, which I skipped earlier, basically we have learned this has derived from physical, biological, and social sciences, and those contents have been synthesized into a body of knowledge, concepts, principles, and procedures, and they are there to provide non-credit out-of-school education largely. For this is the fundamental definition on extension, and invariably at this current scenario, extension, as I told you earlier, as I have outlined various domains where we can work, we have come to understand that each of these disciplines can be of significance to extension science. In fact, we have to learn from each of these disciplines to address the issues which extension scientists are going to face in the coming future. So it is mostly about anthropology, sociology, psychology, economics, political science, communication, public administration, management, science, technology, society studies, and policy studies. In fact, we would just rush through the significance of different disciplines and how can you benefit from each of these disciplines, and what would be the implication of each of this discipline on the content development of extension is something which I would like to share with you. Maybe I do not know whether the ICR or the university would be able to do anything about this, because the content has been significantly reduced over a period of time. And every discipline has a complaint that many of their theoretical components have been reduced due to various reasons. I don't think extension can be stuffed with all these disciplines and content from the disciplines. But I'm talking not about the graduates or the postgraduates. I'm talking about researchers who are in the field, who are obliged or who are bound to develop their spheres of knowledge, their horizons of knowledge every day to enhance their capabilities. So I think for those people, particularly university professors and academicians and practitioners, we have to learn a lot from each of these disciplines. And you know that anthropology is basically covers a range of topics, and they have different disciplines like social and cultural anthropology, biological anthropology, linguistic anthropology, etc. And basically they deal with the nature of culture, language, communication. And many of the studies that we have drawn about the culture of various agrarian communities have come from anthropology. I do not know how many of you have looked into it, but many of the terminologies that we use, so for example, social organization, clan, or maybe village systems, etc., norms, abnomy, so many terms which we use, they have all come from anthropology, which is basically a study of culture, language, and communication. And nature of societies, basically how do different communities behave, what are their behavioral patterns, what are their customs, what are their cultural milieu, what are their cultural patterns, and what are their kinship, their heirship, division of properties, etc., and also different social institutions. For example, the different kinds of marriages, or their different kinds of conducting their family. So many things have come from the study of anthropology, and anthropology is a well-defined science which has got empirical as well as non-empirical methods. And I think we have a lot many things to learn from anthropology for that matter. And as far as methodology is concerned, case studies and ethnography, genealogy, oral history, life history, all these things which we maybe quite often we have heard about this. I do not know how many of you are basically using this methodology. All these methodologies have been drawn from anthropology. I think a close look at the tools of anthropology is very important as far as studies of human societies are concerned. And another important one, which we also have a few courses in sociology, and this sociology is a very important social science from which extension has drawn heavily. And in fact, I have just put an example of a book by Max Weber. Max Weber, most of the extension scientists know as a person who has put forward the concept of bureaucracy. He is known for that. But Max Weber is not only has been working on bureaucracy, has been working on ever so many other social phenomena. And in fact, one of his earlier works is Agrarian Sociology of Ancient Civilizations. It's a beautiful work which will tell you how the ancient civilizations have conducted agriculture. So how did various communities evolve, and what were they doing at that time? What were the different relationships that had existed among people in the agrarian communities of ancient civilization, Rome, Egyptian, Mesopotamian, and ever so many other ancient civilizations where agrarian nature, but he had gone deep into the nuances of agrarian relationship which had existed in ancient civilization. So in fact, out of these preliminary studies only came up with ideas like bureaucracy. So many of these are social organization, social psychology, social change, human ecology, population and demographies, applied sociology, etc. All these things have come from sociology. I think we have lot many things to do as far as this discipline is concerned. We are yet to explore the new developments which are happening in sociology to understand the dynamics of society, particularly agrarian societies. Agrarian societies in India are changing day by day. Modernization is coming up. Many of their cultural practices are now becoming obsolete, and new forms are coming up, and new organizations are coming up. I think we have to have a clear understanding of the methods and practices of sociology for extension scientists to thrive and establish themselves in the new scenario. In psychology, as per se, everybody knows, and we have mostly focused on educational psychology and social psychology. And educational psychology is becoming all the more important, particularly in the COVID-19 pandemic scenario, basically because of the fact that there is huge stress coming upon students and also learners. And also in the entire humanity is now looking, particularly educational psychologists and experts are now looking forward to new methods of reaching out to people. We may not be able to resume normal education, maybe in 1 year to come, or maybe a few months from now only we will be able to reestablish our systems in education. And across the world, people are trying to give online courses and all that. We know that can be only effective to a minimal level. We may not be able to draw rich results from online courses alone. And in Kerala, I am a member of the state curriculum committee. Yesterday we had a meeting and we were exploring as to how to reach out to the students. How can teachers be sent to students' houses if possible? Can we have volunteer groups to assist students to come up in their learning? Because a classroom situation can no longer be anticipated in the immediate future. So online systems are also not very efficient due to connectivity and other issues. People in remote areas are not going to benefit out of that. In spite of all our efforts to make things digital and online, there are so many issues which are yet to be resolved and addressed. So educational psychology is now becoming all the more important, and we are not experts in that either, I would say. So there are so many things about social psychology and social psychology also, for that matter, particularly in such contingent situations where all our normal situations have changed. Social psychology and more learnings about social psychology is very important for us. So some of the concepts that we have drawn from social psychology and educational psychology are mostly about counseling, conflict management, resilience, etc. And these methodologies also have been drawn from psychology: case studies, surveys, naturalistic observation, laboratory. Recently, I have come across a study by IRI, a project run by IRI, wherein farmer suicides are being studied based on different perspectives, I have told you earlier. And psychologists also have been included in the interdisciplinary team. And a lot of modeling has been done by taking psychological variables also along with other variables. So that means they are trying to comprehensively address that issue of farmer suicide. It's an international research project funded by IRI, wherein psychology is a major component, and methods of psychology and various indicators of psychology have been incorporated into the paradigm of their research framework. So, and about extension science, I told psychology has hugely contributed to extension like this: interpersonal relations, cultural competence, group processes that we are mostly interested in, group dynamics, then teaching and learning processes, participation, engagement, ownership, behavioral changes as far as technology adoption is concerned, innovation processes, all those things which we usually talk about in extension have been contributed by pure psychological research. Economics is another important thing. I need not emphasize the importance of economics. In my classes, particularly in extension, I insist that extension students should necessarily take 2 or 3 courses in economics, so that unless they have an understanding of the economic principles, they would not be able to understand the process of development, which is a prerequisite for understanding the objectives of extension. So there's an absolute transdisciplinary association should be there between these 2 disciplines. And basically, it has also been defined by several authors that extension education is the primary means by which agricultural economics research is translated and transferred for practical application. So in fact, they cannot be separated at all. They are one and the same. One is theoretical interpretation of the life scenario or the livelihood options, etc., etc. And another one is how do you interpret and translate this absolute congruence between these 2 disciplines. You will not be able to contribute richly to the causes of extension. So we can see there are so many things which are coming up. I do not know how many of our extension scientists are interested in this. You have to have understanding of globalization and shifting development priorities, environmental intervention. I told you earlier, new agrarian relations, industry, free trade agreements and their impact, changing input costs, labor displacement, market volatility, and all these new scenario, particularly in the aftermath of COVID-19. All those things require new interpretations and new insights. So that also is very important. And political science, for that matter, because many of the people are averse to politics, and politics are mostly seen as partisan politics. Basically, this is not how political science has to be approached. In fact, political science had been there ever since Socrates and Aristotle. And many political scientists have also evolved, and so many people have interpreted the political nature of human beings. And these political systems are there only for human beings, not for other animals. Maybe they will be having some congregations or groups, but I do not know whether there would be any well-defined political process. See, there are several authors who have commented on this, and the political process is very important to understand the power structure in the society. So I would say the democratic decentralization process in Kerala. Dr. W.R. Reddy, I'm so proud to say that he has been, he belonged to the Kerala cadre, and he had served the Kerala cadre, and he is one of the most respected and efficient officers of the Kerala cadre. Later on, he moved on to other education and association, where the local self-government institutions are given the power, the resources, and every other support to come up with their own development projects, which has revolutionized the whole process of development. So unless you understand the nuances of political science, you will not be able to understand how this happens. How does power get transferred from the top echelons of authority to the grassroots level? And how can this power transmission happen? What are the changes that should happen in the power transformation? So, for example, this End of History and the Last Man by Francis Fukuyama is one person who has argued very fervently for liberal democracies. He said liberal democracy would be the last point of a democratic transition, he said. See, I just cited two authors in political sciences, Samuel P. Huntington, and he had reviewed the entire history of mankind as this clash of civilizations and the impact that is going to happen on human life. So see, there are very beautiful interpretations on the societal structure and evolution of societies, etc., etc. And in fact, at one point of time, you can even see that political science is getting transcended into sociology and anthropology and so many other disciplines as well. So this is very much related to law, say, for example. Sometimes it becomes very much important and very intensely integrated to economics, for that matter. Most of the political formulations across this country, I mean across the globe, are related to economic policy making. So politics is again an implication of the economic ideology that different parties or different congregations have. So likewise, political science is a very important discipline which has to be very closely understood by the extension scientist. And see, several methods also have been contributed by political science: analysis of organizations and social political structure, political economy, etc., etc. They're all very important. And management, as you know, is a comparatively recent development in science, and we have drawn richly from this science. And management of organizations, management of human resources, management of farmer collectives, all these very important activities of extension organizations are drawn from the discipline of management. And another important thing which has not been taken care of by the extension scientists is public administration and policy. So how do you administer your public institutions? How do you make budget, for example? How do you give budgetary allocation? How do you emphasize on various policies? How do you make new public institutions? How do you manage new public institutions? How do you conduct governance? This is very important, unless you make your governance transparent and efficient, you will not be able to reach out to the people, because that is very important. So you have to have very good systems of governance. If you really want to establish good systems of governance, you should know what governance is. You should know what public administration is. So extension is basically, governance also is involved in extension. Because in classical extension, we talk about how do you influence people, how do you give out doles and help to people. So whether the beneficiaries really benefit out of that, and how do you formulate a scheme so that more people can benefit out of that. All those nuances, you can find theoretical interpretation about those activities in public administration. And another important thing is, as I told you earlier, studies on technology and sciences and the interfaces of science and technology, and what technology is making ultimately as an impact on the society. So these are also very important, because this is important because you should know how to project the future based on the technological changes that would happen. So COVID has now paved the way for this kind of webinars. We were planning about webinars even earlier, but we didn't have platforms to do so. But all of a sudden, due to the aftermath of COVID, there had been several platforms which are available, and we need not travel from one place to another. And this particular conference also was supposedly, I think that was planned way back in March or so, but it got rescheduled to August, and that too now we are not able to see physically, but so many people can come together and participate in this. New systems are coming. So this has been an impact of technology, and we have to project what is going to be the impact of this kind of technologies in extension and the life of people. So you have to have projections about this. So management of innovation process and knowledge management, which are all coming up as new disciplines, particularly in agriculture sciences, demand or warrant the extension scientists to know more about science, technology, society studies as well. So I think it is almost time, and we have to be more interdisciplinary in our approach to research. And interdisciplinary research, we having peculiar research designs like this. I do not know whether it is visible to you. And there are three important aspects of any research for that matter. You have to have a conceptual design, you have to have a technical design, and an integration of these two designs. And every step involved in developing this framework of interdisciplinary research, and talking about how do you go interdisciplinary, or how do you make yourself interdisciplinary in your approach towards research. And how in every step, you should have consultation with your team members, which are drawn from different disciplines. So you have to understand how each discipline can contribute. So there would be some changes, there would be some heated debates, there would be some arguments. Entomologists would say that this is going to be because of such and such problems, and that will have to be debated by somebody else. Somebody would say that it is because of nutrient deficiency. So you have to come to a consensus. So in fact, in conceptual design, and also in translating this conceptual design into a technical design, and in integrating all these stages, would involve mutual consultation among scientists. And this is a difficult process, more interdisciplinary. Every research project has to be invariably interdisciplinary in nature. And I would say that if it is interdisciplinary, the fruits are going to be much, much more effective. The outputs are going to be much, much more concrete. Outcomes are going to be much, much more effective and impactful, because this would certainly help you to de-learn many of the concepts that you have. You will start learning about new things. You will start looking at things differently. You will start developing empathy. And also you would start finding out new solutions without any problems of ego, because it is very important that scientists come together, argue, and then come to consensus scientifically, evolve methods on their own through mutual consultation, and then approach an issue rather than trying to dictate a methodology to address an issue. You have to come to consensus, more broad-based consensus to approach issues. So this is more about the steps in designing interdisciplinary research. I told you there are conceptual and technical designs, and they are very important as far as interdisciplinary teamwork is concerned. And the respective team members should sit together, and they have to plan the data analytical methods, the variables that have to be selected, then operationalization of variables and tools to collect data, and different types of analysis that are required, And once analysis come, how do you interpret various things from different perspectives? All those things you have to do through mutual consultation and by cross-learning. That is the most important thing. So I'm not going into each one of these stages because it is going to be more time consuming. It is already 12:30 and also I have lost a few minutes due to my connectivity issues. I did not go to this. One thing which I would emphasize is that the conceptual design is mostly about why and what of the research program, for which you have to have mutual consultation. And the technical design is how and where and how do you approach an issue. So it mostly involves the methods, tools of measurement, analysis, etc. Again, I told you, these team members have to sit together and have consultative dialogue so that you can come up with your tools and your methods of data collection, etc., etc. So likewise, you go one by one. Data analysis, I told you. Data analysis also, you'll be having arguments. You should come to consensus. Your notion would be denied by another person. Your notion could be questioned by another person. So you should be ready for this. So data analysis also is a joint process in interdisciplinary research. And integration is again very important because maybe one scientist might have come to a conclusion of his own while dividing the assignments. Another person might have come to the conclusion of another issue. So there could be differences in their inferences. So you have to sit together, integrate these differences and integrate your arguments, integrate your inferences, and then try to put up a comprehensive picture about the issue which you have addressed, for which there would recur series of consultation. And the end result would be, I would tell you, a much superior research output rather than individual trying to attempt those issues single-handedly. So I think this is very important, and it is high time that not only in agriculture extension, in other disciplines also, we have to switch over to this mode of solving solutions and finding solutions to problems. Every project at the university level have to be interdisciplinary, and in extension, you should also take efforts to reach out to other organizations, I would say other research organizations which are not even related to agriculture. Extend your hands to get their help. You help them as well, so that I think more integration would be possible. And the new education policy insists on multidisciplinary universities. I do not know how many of you have gone through the length and breadth of that policy document which has come. The policy government has envisaged multidisciplinary universities instead of single domain universities or single subject universities. India is now going to have I would say hundreds of multidisciplinary universities, wherein one university would be having schools of law, schools of economics, schools of biotechnology, schools of agriculture, etc., etc. So that the prime motive and focus of this new education policy is to have integration among disciplines. I do not know how far they would be able to do it, but the concept is basically to facilitate and foster interdisciplinary approach. So there are several ethical issues also in interdisciplinary research, not only in extension, everywhere, because regarding your portion of the pie, your portion of your cake, who is responsible for that and who can claim this and who has to be given more credits, etc., would be there. And ethical issues also has to be dealt in a framework. And before you attempt any interdisciplinary research, you have to have a code of conduct as far as ethical issues are concerned. So that is how you go about in interdisciplinary research. So this is mostly about the interdisciplinarity in research in general, and the requirement or the necessity to have interdisciplinary research, embracing more and more disciplines into the domain of extension to address various emerging issues. I think we have to switch over to this new mode of conducting research. You have to draw a lot many things from other disciplines. You have to openly approach every other discipline from the point of view of their domain as well, and then integrate the process of finding out solutions to problems in such a way that all perspectives are given their due share and their due importance. I think extension being an interdisciplinary subject inherently would be able to imbibe the principles of interdisciplinarity in much more effective manner. And I think we will certainly open up new horizons of research to address many of the issues which the distinguished speakers who spoke before me had pointed out. So I think this is all about my topic. I'm so happy that you have given me a very patient listening. Thank you so much once again for inviting me to share my thoughts on this very important function. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir. Dr. Jiju Alex, you have covered extensively and touched upon almost all the points which are well taken